He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife. Now it's Kevin Costner's turn. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. One of the prevailing behaviours of this one's wife is her belief that she can just walk into anything and be richly rewarded. This is part of her magical thinking. Her narcissism makes her believe that she is important and special, pioneering and unique. This is why, for instance, with American Riviera Orchard retirement homes, she thinks that it can just succeed by virtue of being associated with her. She doesn't appreciate that success requires talent, hard work, and in some instances, a dose of good fortune. It's like archetypes. She thought that this would be a world-beating series because it involved her, that she's so immensely popular, so rigorously insightful, so forensically sharp, whip-smart perhaps, that the programme that she creates would want to be listened to by many, many millions of people around the world. Such is the laziness engendered by her narcissism, it wasn't even necessary for her to undertake all of the interviewing. Production staff did it, and then she just came in and recorded the questions thereafter. The arrogance of believing that she didn't have to put in the hard yards to make it a success. And, oddly enough, it was a failure. It was a failure because the effort wasn't applied, because the talent wasn't there. There's no reflection on the guests. It's entirely a consequence of the host. This mentality has meant that this one's wife believed that she could just walk straight into the A-list, that she could come from the United Kingdom via Canada and she would be greeted with open arms by the likes of Julia Roberts and Cameron Diaz and Gwyneth Paltrow, who'd all say, "You're one of us now, Megsy. Come on in. The water's great. You deserve your place here," after all of those blockbuster and critically acclaimed films. But doesn't matter about that. You're still welcome here. After all, you're so eminently well, perhaps not. But leaving aside you haven't had any track record with major film success and you have no charisma, you are, of course, a magnetic individual that draws people to... maybe not that. Well, anyway, you're welcome. The fact is that the A-list, whilst there are plenty of narcissists there, they're hard-working narcissists, driven by their narcissism with a desire to succeed because success enables them to control more people, get more fuel from people, get more by way of residual benefits. They have grafted to get to the position that they have done. Not all of them are talented, admittedly so, but many of them are. And this fusion of talent and endeavour has meant that they've gone through the various auditions, the rejections, playing the small parts until they had their big breakthrough and their talent shone. And with careful marketing and publicising of their brand, they become successful, famous and wealthy. But for many of them, it will have taken them a number of years before that recognition occurred. And in so doing, filming has a grueling schedule. The promotional rounds that are associated with it are significant. And thus those who've made the A-list have put in the effort. Sure, it's not a comparison with serving in the forces or, for instance, doing some of the less desirable jobs in society, which are dangerous and dirty and smelly, etc. But the point is this. There are many within the A-list who have put in the effort, allied with their talent, and they don't like Janie or Johnny-come-latelys who think that they can swan into their midst, throw their weight around and behave like one of them, i.e., they don't like people like this one's wife. And she stands out more than any other. There'll be some Johnny or Janie-come-lately who's unheard of. They try to make a splash, and they are waved away. This one's wife, of course, is infamous, prominently known around the world, and she thought that as a consequence of that prominence and the fact that she has a title and that she is this one's wife, she could just walk into the A-list. But the A-list doesn't like that kind of behaviour, and the A-list has certainly made its feelings known. It began some time ago with various members of it laughing at this one's wife's attempts to hang out with them. More recently, we've seen the likes of Katy Perry back away from this one's wife, not being seen with her, and Gwyneth Paltrow engaging in her repeated trolling of this one's wife. Well, now, Kevin Costner is exhibiting his distaste for this one's wife with an indirect swipe at her as a consequence of a report in the Daily Mail by Cassie Carpenter, which tells us, Kevin Costner revealed he had a very sweet conversation with William, Prince of Wales, 15 years after nearly casting his mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, in the sequel to his $41 million grossing blockbuster, The Bodyguard, from 1992. You will recall that at Kevin Costner's charity event, this one's wife managed to get a hanger-on invitation courtesy of her representation through the agency, and in so doing expected to make a speech on the stage. We had the hilarious attempt at grabbing the mic, which we all enjoyed, apart from this one's wife, of course, as that was a threat to her control. But Costner had a face like a slapped arse having to deal with this one's wife, and it's understandable. Not only would he have contempt for her as somebody who's tried to elbow her way into the A-list based upon no talent and no endeavour, but also that she attempted to shoehorn herself into the midst of his charity event. Accordingly, no opportunity is missed then to make a point towards her ladyship by pointing out that Kevin Costner favours Team Wales. Not only that, but pointedly exhibits the fact that it was Diana who was considered for the sequel, nothing to do with this one's wife, who you'll recall had previously suggested that she would be involved in The Bodyguard too. Thus, Kevin Costner appears, talking about Prince William, talking about Diana, and cocking a snook quite clearly at this one's wife. He stated, I was going to make a second one of Bodyguard that was really flying down the tracks in a way very quietly because that's how I operate. I really keep things to myself, he explained. That's why, when it finally emerged that Princess Diana was going to maybe do that, we talked. It was so sweet, and Sarah, Duchess of York, was the one that set this up. Sarah was very cool. The Duchess, when she could have been like going, well, I'm a princess too, what about me? She didn't. She didn't do that at all. She was going, no, I'm going to make this happen, Kev. And she did. I always respected her, that she never inserted herself. But who does try to insert herself? Yes, this one's wife. Years later, Costner happened to be in England, and the future King of England's people reached out to him for a meeting. I've never talked about this, the two-time Oscar winner said, but I can say, because of how I very much respect him, but I think it's a story worthwhile about him, and since we're talking about this, I've had an incredibly unusual, for the most part beautiful life, and so we met in this room where the chairs were still stacked on chairs. It was just us. I'm sure there was somebody waiting outside, it was just someone I met. There was nobody else. He walked up and we sat down and we shook hands, and the first line out of his mouth was, he says, you know, my mum kind of fancied you. Blushing, Kevin replied, I know, to William, and they spoke for about half an hour. I'll never say what we talked about, but it was a very sweet thing, Costner beamed. And we just chatted and we both broke away. And we never became pen pals or did anything like that. But I've had such fond memories of who he was, how I was approached, and what we talked about. Thus, recently, Kevin Costner talks about his meeting with Prince William and does so in glowing terms. Furthermore, he makes mention of Diana, Princess of Wales, being a consideration for Bodyguard 2. No mention whatsoever of this one's wife. And the publication of this now is a further demonstration of Kevin Costner showing how he has no time for this one's wife, but has plenty of time for Prince William. This is the kind of thing that infuriates this one's wife, because it's a heavyweight A-lister talking about William and not her. Her narcissism is such that it causes her to believe that Costner should be talking about her, that she should be the consideration for Bodyguard 2. It may sound preposterous. Why on earth would he talk about her when she's a nobody? Why on earth would he even consider this mediocre actress for Bodyguard 2? But the fact is, the self-absorption that is created by her narcissism makes her truly believe that it should be her each and every time. I should be the one that's playing in the Euros final. I should be the one that's being considered for this role. I should be the one that's in the White House. I should be the one that has invented a new form of energy. Because she believes that she's so special because her narcissism tells her that. And this is why somebody who is largely talent-free, apart from sucking golf balls through 40 feet of hosepipe, continues to commit these gaffes. Because she propels herself into these situations thinking she will succeed because it's her, and she fails. Once again, there's another instance of the A-list dissing her, with Kevin Costner now talking in favourable terms about a meeting he had with William, timed now as the A-list continues to pour shade on this one's wife. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.